when we do that Ramones cover, like I always talk about how influential the Ramones were to us and made us believe that we too could be a band. Like I say, a lot of newer bands are doing phenomenal nowadays. Like, for example, your Knock Loose or your Turnstile. I mean, they just took an interpretation of what we were kind of doing and made it their own style, their own attempt. But these are bands that always respected what we came up with, and it's cool to see stuff like that move. And, you got to pass the torch. You got to let it move on. And it was the whole intention of it. It was not to just keep it for myself or hide in a closet with it. Like, no, you can't have it. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm just grateful for these bands that are continuing doing with their own interpretation of something that we felt so strong about. And they're doing it. And it's great.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy, ghostcoldmag.com. I am super honored today to be joined by Roger Miret of Agnostic Front and other bands and other things. How are you doing, sir?
Good, brother. How are you, man? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, man. It's truly an honor. We've met a bunch of times. I've been a fan from way back. I was not a hardcore kid. I was a little metal kid in New York City, and my friends brought me to my first matinee at CB's in '87 in my sophomore year of high school, and I was shitting bricks that I was going to get creamed and killed by people because, he's like, dude, why did you wear that Metallica shirt, and why is your hair so long? Hide that shit in your hoodie and put your Yankees hat on tight. And I stood in the corner. Nobody fucked with me and everything was wonderful. And then like a year later, metal and hardcore were buddies. So, I've always, respected and admired and loved the band. And this new record to me stands up with anything you guys have ever done. And I know that's maybe a little cliche. Every band says this next record is the best thing we've ever done, but I do feel like this is particularly fierce and strong all the way through for a very long album.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, I feel good about this album myself, and I feel that there's elements of pretty much our catalog, our whole career, or you could hear a little bit of everything in there, and at the same time, there's also something fresh and new too. So it's to me, I'm enjoying it so far.
Right on. And congrats on signing with Reigning Phoenix. They seem to be killing the game. And I often remark that like a person getting a new job, the only way to get a raise or a better circumstance or the career you want if you're in the industry is to sign with a new label. And I feel like you guys could have gone anywhere. So I wanted to know, what, how that process has been for you, and, how did you guys come to sign with them, and how did they court you, so to speak?
Well, you know what? It was kind of a natural progression for us because we were on Nuclear Blast Records, as you all know, and Nuclear Blast kind of split up. And Marcus, who was the owner of Nuclear Blast, when they split up, he took his 10 favorite bands, us, Meshuggah, Halloween, I can't remember all of them right now, which were bands he signed and he loved very much. And he took him with him to a label that at the time called Atomic Fire. And Atomic Fire was pretty much everybody in RPM that was hired for Atomic Fire. But then they felt like Atomic Fire sounded too much like Nuclear Blast, like kind of off the same thing. And then Marcus ended up selling again his independent label, and they became Reigning Phoenix. But we were always kind of in it, and we, to be honest with you, our back catalog was moving along with like from Nuclear Blast to Atomic Fire, and it landed in Reigning Phoenix. So we're like, well, might as well just stay here. We know everybody. We've been working with them since Nuclear Blast, and they do have our catalog, and they're easy to work with, good people to work with, and they're very eager and very hungry to do stuff, and nothing better than getting a label like that,
Right on. Somebody that's in your corner, that's showing support. I know the business is smaller than people think, the hardcore and metal music world. And I'm super stoked to I didn't know that they also had your catalog. So that's super cool. I hope that means like reissues and, maybe some loving historical stuff, because I'm a big geek for that kind of stuff, especially getting like vinyl from the hardcore scene from back in the day. Like I got that the SSD record that came out. A couple of them have come out, but I got the big one on Record Store Day, and I was like, I had all my feels. I was like, oh, like that's a band that I go way back to. Also, like it's always come back to certain bands, AF SSD, Gorilla Biscuits, like the thing, bands that matter to me. But Echoes in Eternity right off the bat, man. What a killer album all the way through, every single element, and I love that title. And of course, my brain goes to Gladiator, What We Do Echoes in Eternity, and
Which
I
is
feel
well
like,
gotta.
yeah, naturally, and it kind of goes with the band and goes with the themes of the album, and overcoming struggles, and just kind of, I feel like I talked to somebody yesterday and they were like, we're in a personal war every day, just ourselves to live. And we're in a war. Humanity is in a war against the planet, against each other, against all these things. So it's kind of like, it shouldn't have to feel like such a grind to survive, but it does. And I wanted to just talk about like the lyrical themes of this record to start things off.
Okay, cool.
Obviously the same certain things come back over and over in our lives, right? Like common bonds and reminders and the things that guide our compasses morally and personally. But also, like, I feel like you are stretching yourself, like, here's things I want to talk about. And I wondered if anything, obviously I hope your health is good and your family's good,
Yeah.
but like if anything personally has come up that's kind of moved you or moved that needle for you into some other things.
Well, obviously, yes. Like, I mean, the pandemic was a huge thing for a lot of people. It pretty much deleted or erased 2 years of people's lives in some sort or some way. So, there was a lot of things you go into these deep thoughts and everything. I mean, you say change the world. Everybody all of a sudden was on social media. Everybody had a comment. Everybody had something to say. Everybody was a doctor. Then everybody was a politician. It's like, it's crazy, what the stirring that shit did. And it's so with that alone, you got a lot to say, a lot to talk about, like lyrical wise. I mean, we're a lot of content is from going through hard times and coming back over. We like to speak anyway about what I call social politics, stuff that goes around me on a day-to-day basis, not about like world politics. I leave that for the politicians and all those crooks to deal with. Of course we'll touch on stuff like you're like, for example, Way of War. That's just a basic song talking about the criminalities of war and how we're forced into this stuff. And it's, casualties are horrible, like a lot of civilians. And who the hell wants war? And I know that people don't want war, but it is what it is. Other than that, we have songs like Sunday Matinee, for example, which is pretty much about our live shows. And like you just mentioned earlier, how you went to your first show and all of a sudden you felt like you belonged all of a sudden. And that's like an anthem to sing along to, or something that made you feel like home and made you feel welcome, and you want to sing along to it because you could feel it. So I mean, it's there's stuff in there pretty much. If I go song by song, it'll be nuts. But there's a lot of good stuff in there. Divided, another song, which is pretty much the metaphor of the album cover. That line, for example, I have wrote it over here because I knew if I was asked, that line, "Spill the blood for the innocent," is pretty much from what was the driving force to the cover artwork that was done by Ernie Parada, who was in Token Entry. It's like, that kid just blindfold with a flag, just straight up going to, maybe not questioning everything, not looking at everything, and doesn't even know that he's waving a flag or carrying a flag and it's on fire behind him. That's how blind people are and how move along, or how they'll do things as fed to them. There's a lot of fear that was brought to people, and the reaction was just wild. Like, I mean, it's typical. Like, keep people in fear, and then you'll want control of government. So there's a lot of stuff like that, like awareness. But it's nothing new for Agnostic Front. I mean, go back and listen to, for example, The American Dream Died, 2014, 2015, whenever it came out. Look at that record, and every single song on that record hits today. You're like, damn, these guys were calling this shit out years ago. We've been calling this shit out many, many years ago, but it's now in everyone's face.
Right on, all the way back to the beginning. By the way, that show that I mentioned, I saw it was Burn and Mucky Pup, or Mucky Pup and Burn. And of course,
cool.
Mucky Pup became Dog Eat Dog, and Burn became Orange 9mm later. And Orange 9 is back doing stuff, and Dog Eat Dog is still touring and kicking ass and having fun. So, it was a wild time. Like 35, 38 years later, I'm still talking about that show that changed my life a lot. And this band changed my life a lot. And this record's going to change, I think, some people's lives, because like hardcore has always been a thing Like, we'll take you wherever, whenever, whenever you come in, we'll take you. We don't like, you weren't in back in the day. You didn't see Suicidal back in the day. It's like, it's cool. You are here now
Yeah,
and
you're
we'll
here
accept
now.
you. Yeah, it's not like unfortunately, my homies in metal, we're just a little bit too much of this shit in the back of the room, and like too much judging and too much like,
That's the world today.
neckbeard shit. Yeah, the whole internet is a neckbeard now. It's
Yeah,
fucked. And I work in media and marketing, so it's kind of like I know I'm
yeah.
tired of social media even from my own personal life. I just do it professionally, and I don't enjoy it as much. But yeah, man, we need kind of a call to arms. We need, people to open up our eyes and kind of punch us awake a little bit. Because I think the technology's been amazing and it's fun and convenience, right? But
It's also dangerous.
it's super dangerous. It's a super slippery slope, and we are not using this muscle up here
All right,
anymore.
they
This
want to
thing.
program you with everybody's in front of their phones, and you get slowly, little by little, getting programmed. And then everybody's righteous with what they believe, and then and rightful. Some people are really gung ho in their beliefs, but they ignore other things too. Like I like to listen to everything and everyone, everybody. They make my own judgment. I mean, that's a true essence of the band, agnostic, meaning endowed the absolute truth till you see with your own eyes. So that's how I kind of live, like, yeah, there's so many fucked up shit going on everywhere, every side, every place, but I'll make those judgments as I see it myself.
Right on. Shout out to yourself and the whole band. It's such a fierce record musically. I love you guys still kind of having the sound, but trying again, just like you with the vocals and the lyrics, trying some new things. But it also feels like, again, very old school. A lot of call and response, a lot of great, huge choruses. The record went like I saw 15 tracks, but I was like, oh, it's a 15-track agnostic front record, so it's gonna go fast. It's not gonna be too long. Any particular song's not gonna
Yeah.
be. We're not doing progressive metal epics here, and I love the rawness of it. That was really big for me. I had in my notes like how raw every song was: guitars, vocals, choruses, like drumming, like bass. Everything is raw and very strong and powerful.
Right, and I give credit all that, obviously a lot of it to our producer Mike Dijon, who was also at that point our sixth member of the band, who was involved pretty much the whole process of everything from the writing to the production to the mix to the videos. I mean, even with the mix, he didn't mix it, but he gave the direction and what he was thinking, what he was feeling to Zeus, who mixed it, who did a phenomenal job, and it was all a vision that was sought through, and it continuously still being sought through all the way through. Hey, he's calling me right now, and I don't want to deal with him. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. I just crack me up because it happens all the time. It's no biggie. Go
So yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So it was like his vision sought all the way through from, like I said, the writing process to the recording process to the cover to the videos. He's been a part of it too. He's been like our sixth member. It wasn't just like, okay, I produced it, I was in the studio, I'm done. It was never like that. It was something that he held dear to his heart, and we greatly appreciate that because he is with us all the time. He is like our brother, and we consider him as a sixth member. So it was really cool.
Right on. Super cool. Yeah, Mike did a phenomenal job. It's probably like one of my favorite in terms of just the guitar sound on an AF record is probably one of my favorites. It's so killer.
It was
Like very
precisely looked for. It was something he was looking for, and he got it when he told Zeus what he was wanting and looking for. Zeus was excited, first of all, to be working on a record because we've worked with him before, obviously, and he loved Craig Silverman. He loved his style of guitar playing, so he was just excited to get behind it because he knew the guitars are going to sound great. And then when he heard it, he was just blown away. He goes, "Wow, these sounds are amazing! I could do so much with them. I'm going to make them sound huge," and which is perfect.
Yeah, Zeus is great, man. I got to hang out with him when I lived in Boston and the Boston area. I saw him all the time at shows and Worcester, and just a phenomenal dude. And he has like some of the best ears ever. Like, I'm like, I don't think I could do that. Like, I don't think I could mix records. I've made a lot of records as a musician, and I don't think I could mix a record properly by myself. It just seems like you got to have sixth sense or superpowers, or just like maybe not all the hearing loss that I probably have endured in this ear from a hi-hat in my ear. Yeah, man, what a killer time. And just like all the things coming together. You have all these huge tours. I still see AF all over the world. I see shirts everywhere I go, even at death metal shows. It's like one of the bands that people can agree on, which is always makes me happy that it's a band that brings people together. And like different people can be like, I like that band and I like that band, and
Right.
after all these years, it's got to be very gratifying. A lot of you guys pay it forward like every night at your shows in terms of the history of punk. And I know you've been covering Ramones lately live, which is fun. And you did Riot Fest, which was amazing. And, but I wonder, do you notice other bands like paying tribute to you also?
Yeah, of course, and we tour a lot with a lot of younger bands and a bunch of different bands. Everybody wants to hear stories of the old days, the good old days. Yeah, they were good old days. There were different days. But, we're excited when we're on the road with these bands too, because not only are they influenced by us and they love us, whatever, we're also being influenced by them. And one thing that's great about it's kind of like when we do that Ramones cover, like I always talk about how influential the Ramones were to us and made us believe that we too could be a band. And it's important, there's a lot of, like I say, a lot of newer bands are doing a phenomenal nowadays. Like, for example, your Knock Loose or your Turnstile. I mean, they just took an interpretation of what we were kind of doing and made it their own style, their own attempt. But these are bands that always respected what we came up with, and it's cool to see stuff like that move. And I like things that you got to pass the torch. You got to let it move on. And it was the whole intention of it. It was not to just keep it for myself or hide in a closet with it. Like, no, you can't have it. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm just grateful for these bands that are continuing doing with their own interpretation of something that we felt so strong about, and they're doing it, and it's great. And we're still invited to their parties, their times, because we've always been very humble and very acceptance of that. And it feels great.
I agree with that. You've always been one of the most approachable people ever, like in terms of just going up and saying hey and give you a pound and chop it up with you and Vinny. I tell all my friends I wish Vinny was my dad. Like my parents are from the Lower East Side originally, but like, obviously way before y'all. But I feel like that old school New York thing is a little bit those personalities, those corner stores, they're gone. I was down
Yeah,
in the neighborhood a couple of years back and I was like, oh, here's like 123 Avenue C where my dad grew up. And the building is still there. It's still an apartment building. And the other places are gone, somewhat, which is okay because that's, cities. That's what happens in cities. It's kind of fun to me that your band has always been, just that cool. And I do wonder, I'm thrilled for Knock Loose. They played like direct to Slayer a couple weeks back at Slayer's one-off headline show this year, and wild times to see bands getting like Turnstile get nominated for Grammys, and Scowl and Turnstile end up in like Taco Bell commercials, and people get mad. They're like, well, that's not what we started hardcore for. So my hope is that people, like there's an industry thing. What is a measure of success? You've been in the game fighting a long time, just, scrapping it out and making a living, but it's hard. And like if opportunities come along and it's the thing, I don't know anyone who would actually turn down an opportunity to have their music in a television commercial for 15
But you know
seconds.
what? It's not something new. And the Clash were doing this back then when the Clash was a punk band, and the Transplants did all kinds of bands. It's not the band's fault. For example, the whole explosion in the '90s with like Offspring, Green Day, Rancid, all the bands. It's not their fault that all of a sudden radio or the people took it and they loved it, right? And as long as these bands stay true to themselves and continue doing what they love doing, what's wrong with it? I'd rather put on the radio and listen to all these bands than have the crap they play on the radio. I mean, yeah, if I'm watching TV and a song of a band that I like pops up, yeah, that's awesome. They're staying true to what they believe. And there's nothing wrong with success. There really isn't. Like I say, as long as you stay true to your belief. The minute you start like flowing off it, blah, blah, it becomes, questionable or whatever. But a lot of these bands stay as they believe, and they're good people. I see them all. I took my daughter to go see Knock Loose with Slipknot, it was great. You know, these are bands that were inspired by us, and they're very respectful, and it feels great to see bands moving in great directions. You know, and like I say, like I don't understand. There's always going to be somebody say something about something. It's nothing new. A lot of it is jealousy. A lot of it, everybody's got a voice now. We got the internet, but I say, I'm very grateful of these bands voicing and doing something we always were so much of doing, and getting it out to the masses. It's cool.
Super cool. And I'm proud for all their successes. And there's room for everybody, man. It's not like if you succeed, I fail. I need people to break out of that thing and break out of their little bubbles. And just because you have an opinion doesn't mean the whole world needs to know it. You can just tell it to your friends and just keep it to yourself. Just for a last thing, man. And again, this has been amazing for me. Thank you. And shout out to Rating Phoenix and C Squared and everybody. I always end these interviews with a wild card question. And so the one I have for you is, what is your favorite band that you wish you could have either been in or made the music they made? Is there another band that's like on your level that you love as a fan that you wish I wish I made that album. I wish I made that song.
That's a weird question. I mean, to me,
they're all weird questions, man.
To me, music and art is pretty much an interpretation of the bands themselves, and they could only be that band because of those reasons. Like, for example, I've always said Agnostic Front would have never sounded like Agnostic Front if we lived in LA or in Virginia or anywhere else. We're a product of our environment. So for me to be like, oh, I wish I did that record, I would have had to been a product of that environment. So I mean, as a New Yorker, there's a lot of great New York bands, but I'm grateful that I did Victim of Pain. But I don't know, man. Like there's a lot of bands that inspired me. Misfits. Okay, I wish I was the Misfits. So if you want to go right there, because I love the Misfits. They were very inspirational for me. But I'm glad they were the Misfits and they did what they did because I got to enjoy them.
You had the great curly hair. I think you could have pulled off the Devil Lock.
Yeah.
Back in 85 or 83. You could have did it.
No Devil Lock anymore.
No, same. Under here, it's nothing, buddy. Roger, man, what an honor and a thrill. You've always been supportive of what we do, my partner and I and everybody. And even back with the book and everything, it's just been, a great experience being a fan and then graduating up to being a journalist and getting to do this with you has been really a thrill. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.